What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're going to talk tele stuff again. So if you're not familiar with this channel, Dylan Talks Tone, we make videos about guitar stuff. So obviously like and subscribe and do all that. However, what we actually do is we make pickups. And so as part of this, one of the things I want to do was update my website and put some kind of how-to videos on the website. So like when you buy pickups from us, you kind of know how to install them and stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a set of Dylan Talks Tone, Dylan pickups, flat sixes in this here American Vintage 2 Telecaster. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of give you a little step-by-step about how to put pickups in a Tele. And it should mostly apply to most of the guitars that you're going to work on like this, Tele style stuff. So let's jump right into it. All right, so first things first, we're just going to clip the strings off the guitar. That's kind of step one, right? Just whatever strings you're using, get them off of there. And then step two is going to be taking the pickguard off. So if you have this vintage style pickguard without any screws to adjust the thing, the pickup will stay in the guitar. Otherwise, you'll have to undo it from the pickguard with the two adjustment screws. Next thing is we're going to go ahead and take out the control plate. And what I typically do is I just kind of flip it over and stick it back in the hole. That gives me sort of like a little workbench to work on, and it doesn't really scratch up the guitar. Now, according to the wiring diagram, the front outside and the back inside are going to be the neck, that one, and the bridge, that one, wires that we're going to want to unsolder or unsolder or whatever you want to say. So let's go ahead and just heat them up and pull them out. You're gonna wanna be careful because some people have this weird idea that you have to like tangle up the wire in there, like hook it through. You don't want to break off that little tab there. So you'll wanna undo that. And if it's an import switch, honestly, I would be throwing it away and using one of our full-on kits with the whole deal. So you'd probably be skipping this part. But anyway, either way, just get the neck and the bridge leads off of the switch. See how that one's kind of hooked in there? Next thing we're going to want to do is heat up the solder where the grounds are soldered to the back of the pot. Now this might take a little bit, and depending on your soldering iron and depending on how messy it already is and depending on the kind of solder that they use, lead-free solder especially is a little bit annoying to use in this situation. So it's just taking me a minute to get it heated up. Now we're only going to take the pickups out, but usually what will end up happening is the grounds will all come off. So you'll see here that there's 3 wires off, and if you have a bridge ground on your guitar, there will be there too. So at this point, just pull the control plate out of the way, and then we'll take our screwdriver. I use power tools, but I've done this enough times to know how to not screw stuff up. If you're not familiar using power tools, you can just use hand tools. Unscrew the bridge and pull the bridge pickup out with the cables. Now there might be on your guitar a ground wire there, just leave that there. Now we'll unscrew the neck pickup and we will pull it out of the guitar. This has a vintage style neck pickup cable route. So you see how it goes through that little notch? See what I'm saying? Right there, how it goes through that little notch. Sometimes it will actually go straight from the neck pickup through the bridge cable route, through the bridge pickup route into the control plate cavity. So that's why I always take the bridge one out first, and then I take the neck one out. Remove the screws. Now, what we should say here is sometimes the screws are already removed because they're as part of the pick guard because they're mounted in the pick guard. This guitar, they're actually screwed straight into the guitar. So then next thing I do is go ahead and unscrew the bridge pickup from the bridge plate. Pretty easy deal. Sometimes if there's springs, they'll go flying. This one has rubber on it. And basically what I do is I just kind of hold those 3 screws in there, and then I take my bridge pickup, so this is the Dylan Talks Tone bridge pickup, and I stick it right in there like so. And then we just run the screws back down. Sometimes you gotta wiggle it through the hole there a little bit. And next thing you know, it's in there. So now just run the screws in, and typically you'll see here in a second, what I do is I just make the pickup flat with the top of the ashtray as a starting point. That doesn't usually end up, it's not usually where it ends up, but that's kind of where I put it. If you leave it too far down in there, like way too low, it kind of sometimes in some guitar routes can make it hard to put it back in the guitar, like because the pickup's hanging too far below the plate. So run it up kind of far. It just makes it easier for assembly. Once you get this far, then go ahead and just set it aside, because we're actually going to take care of the neck pickup first. In this guitar, it doesn't matter because we've got that separate route for the cable, but in some guitars where you're routing through the bridge pickup route, you'll want to do the neck pickup first. So I go ahead and just run the cables through. Like I said, sometimes it goes through the bridge pickup route, and then we go ahead and on this guitar, we're going to go ahead and put the screws through the base plate of the pickup. Once I find the right ones, we're going to put the screws through the base plate of the pickup and then through the rubber. In this situation, what you might do on another style guitar is you might actually put these screws through the pick guard, then put the rubber between the pickup and the pick guard, and then run the screws in, and you'll actually install the pick guard at this point with the pickup in it, okay? So that might kind of all set in at the same time if you're doing a later style guitar. Mount it to the pick guard and then set the pick guard back on the guitar. You can screw the pick guard back in at this point if you want. Typically I don't, because I like to make sure everything's loose in case I have a problem, later or whatever, but you shouldn't. So then on this situation, what I'm doing is just lining up the screws with the holes, and then when we put it in the guitar, I like to have it low enough that it's below the surface of the fretboard. In the final kind of adjustment, you're going to adjust this later. Once you have strings on it, you can plug it in and play it. But I just get it a little bit below the fretboard at this point. Go ahead and route the wires back through the guitar. Like I said, sometimes it goes through there, sometimes it goes through the pick guard, the bridge pickup, and then just stick them out like that. And then we'll go ahead and put the bridge pickup in. At this point, if you have a bridge ground that's pinched underneath there, just make sure that it's in the right spot. This guitar does not have one. Traditional Teles don't, because they're just grounded through the bridge itself, through the pickup and the strings. But anyway, there you go. Typically what I'll do is I'll put the center 2 screws in first, sort of kind of old engine torquing design there, and just kind of tighten down the middle ones, not overly tight, and then put the outer ones in. What you can't tell here in this is that I have a clutch set really, really, really lightly on my drill, so on my screw gun, so I can kind of not over tighten it. And then I just set this back in the hole, kind of where I started. And we'll go ahead and take our neck pickup wires and we'll stretch them to one side so we don't get them mixed up. We'll take our bridge pickup wires, we'll stretch them to the other side so we don't get them mixed up. And then we will probably go ahead and let's put a pool of solder. I like to replace the solder that was there on the back of the volume pot, because sometimes, especially with lead-free solder and some of that other crap they use, it's just not easy. So then I'll replace the pool of solder. I'll put all the grounds together in one spot, and we will just solder them to the back of the pot. Sometimes you have to add a little bit to kind of get the heat soak through the whole thing, and it all kind of works, and then boom, the next thing you know, you've got all your grounds soldered. At this point, you would have your output jack, both pickup grounds, and your ground from the bridge if you have one. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, so we zoomed in here. So now what we've got is we've got our neck pickup goes on the front outside, and our bridge pickup goes on the back outside. So think closer to the bridge, closer to the neck. That's where it is. But it's outside, inside. Kind of opposite sides of the switch. And I pre-fill the solder holes a little bit. Do not put too much solder in because you can drip it down in the switch and ruin the switch. And then you just put your hot leads for your respective pickups right there and right there. And that's that. At this point, you can kind of just flip it over and stuff it all back in. Make sure that everything moves freely. Make sure the switch moves freely. Make sure you don't have anything touching where you don't want it to touch. And that is it. And then you'll just put your pick guard back on if you have not already done so. You'll put your screws back in, and you'll put your strings back on the guitar and adjust the pickups. And that's basically it at this point. You have installed Telecaster pickups. So obviously when we are talking about some, this is an AVR2, or American Vintage 2 or whatever they're called. Anyway, obviously we have the screws underneath, so we're going to adjust it before we put the pick guard on. The difference with another style of Tele would be that you would actually mount, like we talked about earlier, you would mount the pickup in the pick guard and then drop the whole thing in. And then the other thing would be the wiring to the switch if you have one of those Asian import box switch guitars. Those are going to be a little bit different. However, most of the time when folks are upgrading their pickups, especially in a Squire or some such thing, they are going to probably opt for a replacement setup here. So if you have an Asian guitar, we have these wiring kits. So this is got a plate and knobs, and actually there's supposed to be a switch tip on here. It's probably on this guitar. And it also comes with an output jack already wired to it. You can get them in 3-way, you can get them in 4-way with a series. And so this will just drop right into your import guitar most of the time. And that way you don't have to worry about knobs fitting. You don't have to worry about, wiring it up to one of those cheap switches, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I would recommend if you don't have this type of switching setup. But if not, you can also make do with what you have too and just install the new pickups. So this will give you a little idea of, start to finish, the process. And if you have any questions about it, get in the comments and let me know. And if there's any other guitar install, how to install pickups videos you want to see, I mean, we could do the Les Paul, we could do Strat, we could do whatever you want. And let me know. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next video.